G'day guys, welcome back to another tipping video on the channel. Today I'll be going through my round 14 tips and my predictions and also going through what occurred in round 13. An interesting round it was, the second round of the buys. So yeah, let's get straight into it. The first game, of course, was St Kilda versus Sydney, and unfortunately I did tip Sydney. I tipped Sydney, and yeah, St Kilda managed to get the job done in that one. It's a bit of a 50-50 game, really, and I haven't been so good at the 50-50 games this year, and St Kilda managed to get the job done in that one. And then I was pretty happy with this tip. I managed to tip Port Adelaide. Very, very correct, almost correct as well with my margin, so I was pretty happy with that. Hawthorn getting it done over the lines in a big upset at the G. Yeah, I don't know what it is with Brisbane. They just can't play at the MCG, and they also can't play against Hawthorn. So yeah, it's very, very odd, that's for sure. And then what a game it was, Adelaide versus West Coast. My God, 122-point winners they were in the end, the Crows. It was unbelievable. I saw some crazy tips for that one. People tipping Adelaide by over 110 or even 115 or more. But wow, it actually turned out to be true. You just play that as a joke, I guess. But wow, oh wow, West Coast are in some trouble at the minute. And Richmond versus freo. It was a tight, wet game, but Richmond managed to get the job done, and I was pretty unhappy with that one, to be honest, because I did tip freo again, so it's another incorrect tip. But then I was pretty happy with a nice response on the Sunday, correctly tipping both GWS and Essendon. But then we all know what happened on the King's birthday. The Pies fell almighty short to the Dees in one of the games of the season. And yeah, Dees won that by 4 points, and I tipped Collingwood, so that's another one incorrect. And of course, Geelong and Gold Coast had their buys. I ended up getting 4 tips correct, which I think is pretty average, to be honest. In a round where there were 8 games, and I only got 4. Yeah, not too happy, and I was pretty bad in my big calls as well. That's where it gets really, really bad. My first big call was for Sydney to lead for 75% or more of the match, and St Kilda led for a good 80% of it, I want to say. So, yeah, that was another pretty bad big call to start off the round. Then I tipped Port Adelaide to come from behind at three-quarter time, and they were in front at three-quarter time. So, unfortunately, that didn't occur either. But I was happy with this. Mitchell Lewis kicks 4 more goals. He's in flying form. Pretty much banked that one in as soon as I saw Hawthorn. As soon as Hawthorn were playing well, you just bank Mitchell Lewis to kick 4 more every single week, really. And West Coast versus Adelaide, I was very, very, very happy with this because it almost worked. Crows to kick 10 or more goals in a row. They had 7 or 8 in a row at one point, and I thought, oh my God, this is going to happen. But then West Coast kicked a goal, and then they did get up to 6, I think, at one stage, and even up to 5, I think, late in the game, the Crows, but they didn't quite get it done. But gee, that would have been the best big call of a lifetime, really, if I got that one correct. And Freo versus Richmond, I predicted the lead to never go beyond 18 points. And I think the biggest lead of the night was Richmond by 36. So, yeah, obviously got that one wrong. GWS versus North. This was an absolute shocker of a call. I tipped Zerha to kick 4 more goals. He didn't even kick a goal. He got 1 behind. He got injured a little bit earlier in the game, but played through it. Yeah, I don't know. That was just a really, really, really bad call, I guess. And in Essendon versus Carlton, I predicted Carlton have 70 or more turnovers. They had 59. I was actually very, very shocked. And Essendon actually got 68 or something. So they actually had more turnovers than Carlton for the game. Very, very, very impressed and shocked by that. And in the Pies versus Dees game, I predicted the Pies to kick 5 or more last quarter goals. And we kicked, I believe, maybe 3. So, yeah, incorrect. And, yeah, I only got the 1. So, a horrible week it was for my tips and big calls. Absolutely dreadful. Hopefully I can have a better week this week. And it'll be a quite of a shorter round, that's for sure. Only the 6 games this round to make a pretty short video as well. But But yeah, let's get straight into Thursday night action. It's going to be a big clash. Looking forward to it. Port Adelaide versus Geelong at the Adelaide Oval. Geelong are going to be fresh off their bye, so expect this to be a really, really good game. Now, Port Adelaide have had an amazing 10 weeks, 10 in a row. They've been fantastic. Every single player is playing a role at the moment in their side, and I want to say it, they are probably the team to beat at the moment. And at Adelaide Oval, it's going to be very, very, very hard to tip against Port because they've just been so amazing this season. Geelong had a good win before the bye, though, so you never know. We could see something good from Geelong. They always seem to play well against Port Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval, and it always gets a big crowd and big tension, that's for sure, going to be for a big Thursday night game like this. I'm expecting Geelong to be up for the fight. I'm expecting players, I think, are back now. Holmes, I'm pretty sure, is coming back. They've got Dangerfield and even some other players coming back to Geelong. So there'll be a pretty strong Geelong side running out against Port Adelaide, you feel, on Thursday night. Mitch Duncan was the other one as well. I believe he could be back. So, yeah, they've just got a much better team than what they had a few weeks ago against GWS. Obviously, they weren't in great form before the win against the Dogs before the bye, but a win always helps. Travelling away to the best team in the comp, really, in Port Adelaide. Their midfield has been fantastic. Their forward line's ticking, kicking goals. Their defence was sensational. And then you look at the blokes that can't get a game at the moment. Ryan Burton is out of the team at the moment, and he just can't quite get back in. Ollie Lord's been really good in his breakout first season, really bursted onto the scene, but got dropped last week and will probably stay out of the team now that their forward line is, really, really ticking. With Dixon back, kicking 4 goals as well. And then you got their actual captain and Tom Jonas, who can't get into the team. I think that just shows you how good Port Adelaide are. Ken's willing to take those big decisions, that's for sure. And he's being brutal, he's being bold, and I tell you what, he's probably going to pull something out of the hat here, really. A bit of Ken magic. Everyone predicted Ken to be gone halfway through the season or even towards the end of the season. But no, he's got Port Adelaide at the top. And yeah, they're probably going to make the grand final at this stage. I feel like most people will probably expect them to. Obviously, we all know what's happened in the past in their prelim finals. Anyways, I'm going to go Port Adelaide, obviously. By 4 points, I reckon Geelong will be good in this one. My big call, Hawkins kicks 5 or more goals. He's been a bit out of form, but he had a few good games earlier in the season. And yeah, I'm just hoping he can get that for me. He's always good against Port Adelaide as well. Now we got Sydney versus Brisbane under Friday Night Lights. It's going to be a very, very interesting affair, that's for sure. Now, the Swans haven't been in great form, though they are winning. Coming after their bye, unfortunately did lose, but before their bye, they did get a couple wins. But yeah, at the moment, they're not in great form. And then again, Brisbane, they dropped a game that really they should have won at the G. Like, you got to go into those games not expecting the results, and it just looked like Brisbane were expecting to win, and Hawthorn ran over the top of them late in the game and kicked the final 4 goals, I think it was, to win the game. And yeah, they were pretty poor, Brisbane. I think Hugh McCluggage is going to be out with concussion after a pretty scary incident with James Sicily. Resulted in him being suspended again. And yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I guess Daniel Rich as well might have injured himself as well. So they've got a few injuries, Brisbane as well. I'm not expecting them to smash, but I still think they'll get a fairly comfortable win here by 35 points. My big call, Charlie Cameron kicks 5 or more goals. Why not? He just loves playing at the Gabba, and yeah, I see Brisbane winning this game quite easily. And then the first of the Saturday games, only the 2 this round, got GWS taking on the Dockers. And this one will be an interesting one, that's for sure. Especially seeming both teams. I mean, GWS, they're a young team. They played fairly well against North. I mean, North were really good last week, I thought. And yeah, look, not really too much to take out of it. And just a good solid win really in the end. But seeming they are a young team, could they start to run out of legs now that they haven't had an early bye? They do have a late bye, and believe me, it does affect a young team like GWS. And Freo obviously just coming off their bye, they obviously had outs. Darcy was a huge out. They're hoping that he can get back for this clash. Will make it a little bit easier. If he is back, and O'Meara also got suspended, so they had a few players out, Freo. But yeah, I guess I become a believer of Freo again. I think, oh yeah, they'll make finals, and they go and dish up that, and yeah, look, it wasn't great. They're not great in the rain, we all know, and they've really got to work on that. But there was a few positives. Nat 5 looked really good. They've got a really good young midfield as well, Freo. Sarong Brayshaw. They've found another great player, I reckon, in Matthew Johnson. So, then their defence also held up really, really well at stages and was pretty poor at stages as well. But yeah, just inconsistency in that game, Freo, and they didn't really take most of their chances in that first term and in the first half, really. I think I might be going slightly towards an upset here. And that's because it's not at Manuka, it's at Giant Stadium, and GWS play really, really well there. And if this one was at Manuka, I'd go Freo. Because GWS are running out of legs, I'm asking for a lot, but I will go the upset and tip GWS by 4 points. And I reckon it's going to be one of the games, not only of the round, but of the season. I reckon it's going to be a beauty. My big call, Briggs gets 90 or more fantasy points. He has bursted onto the scene out of nowhere, the Giants ruckman. And now Richmond versus St Kilda. Saturday night footy. Going to be a pretty big build-up to this one, I reckon, because both teams need a win. St Kilda knocking on the door on the top 4. Now, just the percentage-wise out of it at the minute. And Richmond, if they can pull off a win, they might be back. Possibly. They might be able to sneak in to the finals, but they've got to keep winning. This one at the G, they've come in favourites to this game, which I find interesting. Now, they obviously went away and beat Freo away. Freo are in some great form there, so they're obviously going on a little mini roll here, the Tigers. They've obviously beaten 2 teams. I've tipped against them both times, and they've won both of them. So maybe I should jump on board on the Tiger train here at the minute. Shai Bolton is having an amazing last couple of months. He's been sensational since going into the midfield, really, really sparking them up. And I feel like he's been the difference in there in a few games. Just the reason why they're winning games. Obviously, we all know what's happened to Marlon Pickett, so he will miss out, which is quite unfortunate because he was, again, pretty good against Freo and obviously kicked the match winner the week before as well. Jack Rewalt, again, had another good game, and I feel like this was the first time you really see Richmond had a really good game with their forward line and their forward line structure in a very, very long time. Against one of the better teams as well in Freo, it was pretty good to see. Their defence also held up really, really well, seeming Freo dominated the first, let's say, quarter. I feel like Jaden Short probably had his best game of the season as well. He kicked 3 goals, all long range, was sensational. Tim Taranto's in flying form at the minute. And St Kilda, yeah, they looked alright, I guess. Not much you can really say about their game against Sydney. But they've found a player in Mitch Owens and even Wanganeen Malira. They were both sensational. Pretty much nearly carried their team over the line. Max King as well. Looked a bit hurt at the start of the last term. Came back out there and pretty much won them the game, really. He was really, really good. Callum Wilkie as well in defence was just intercepting everything down there. He was really, really sensational down back. Yeah, I guess St Kilda. They've clearly been on a roll this season. They've definitely had a better season under Ross Lyon, and obviously, if ignoring the Adelaide and Hawthorn games, I feel like they haven't really had bad games at all this season. Neither have they had great games, but they should be alright, though they will miss Dan Butler due to suspension. So, yeah, it always hurts when a player goes out, especially to a team that won. Mitch Owens has been fantastic though this season. Now, I do see Richmond winning this game, and it's at the MCG, but I might as well go with another upset. because I just need to get some tips now. I just need to start tipping some upsets. It's the only way I'm going to get back to a decent position after a couple really bad weeks here. My big call, I'll go Saints by 11, sorry. My big call, Taranto gets 35 or more disposals. Now, for the Sunday games, they don't look very appealing in my opinion. Carlton versus Gold Coast. Now, we all know what's been happening to Carlton. They were horrible last week against Essendon, especially in that second half. The first half, they just couldn't kick yet again. It's the same problem every single week for Carlton. I think they were 3 goals 10 or something heading into half time. So, yeah, again, really, really poor in front of goal. I actually thought their defence probably had their best game nearly of the season, except for Peter Wright getting out of hand. He was probably the only player that really got out of hand for them. So, I guess not really too much to take out of it. Again, for Carlton, just another bad performance. I don't see them having a good performance for a while. And Gold Coast will be fresh off their bye as well after 2 games up in Darwin. They've got to travel down to the G. So, yeah, a lot of travelling for the Suns at the moment, but they had a really, really nice bye in a really good position. Obviously got 2 very, very, very good wins before the bye. And this one should be a bit of an easy one. Now, I know Carlton are favourites somehow, unbelievably. But yeah, Gold Coast have got to win this game. And I reckon they'll win it pretty comfortably as well. By 30 points, my big call, Carlton go goalless in any quarter. Now, for the final game of the round, I've got the Kangaroos taking on the Dogs. So, yeah, look, it's going to be an interesting game, that's for sure. A game that I think could be a bit of a dead rubber game. Most people would probably think it'd be a dead rubber game anyway, but I don't think it will be. I think North Melbourne, they definitely are improving. You can definitely see improvement. They just ran out of legs against the Giants. Yet again, really, they've been running out of legs quite a bit in the last couple of weeks. But, they've got some great positives. They've got some really good young kids. Taron Thomas looks really, really good at the minute through the midfield. And they've got some great kids in there. Wardlaw, Phillips, Sheasel, Curtis, Ford. Larkey is having a sensational season and is definitely up there for the Coleman. And probably one of the favourites to win it now. And yeah, the Dogs, look, they played well at stages against Port, especially seeming Port. They were a top team, and the Dogs really took it up to them, which is good to see. But yeah, again, they didn't really take their chances when they had momentum in the last term, and Port, broke away and kicked a few goals late and put a bit on the scoreboard. But I can tell you now, the game was a lot closer than that. I felt like it was a 1 to 2 goal game difference in the end. It was very, very high scoring in the first half, which definitely suited the Dogs. It's definitely what they wanted. And then in the second half, Port Adelaide started to get on top, and then the Dogs had their momentum, but just didn't capitalise, which is the problem yet again. Though they did improve after a really bad game against Geelong, where they just did not take their chances at all. And yeah, not really a massive amount to take out of that game against Port Adelaide. They had a few good players though. Bontempelli, again, standing up in the midfield. Yeah, I think this one will be really, really close in my opinion. I reckon North will take it up to the Dogs. I think the Dogs might have to even scrap away and win this one in a thriller by 12 points. My big call, a total of 180 plus points are combined for the game. I reckon it'll be pretty high scoring. And then we got the byes this week. It's Melbourne, Essendon, Hawthorn, Collingwood, Adelaide, and West Coast. Now, I feel like a few of these teams certainly need the bye. And some of these teams don't really need it so much. And then some of them don't need it at all. And those teams are probably Adelaide, they don't need it at all. Essendon definitely don't need it. Melbourne kind of need it. Collingwood do. Hawthorn do, I want to say. And West Coast, wow, they've been waiting for this bye, that's for sure. I'll start with West Coast. So, they were, again, very, 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 very ordinary. But, Adam Simpson was saying, you got to get the little wins out of games at the moment. That's what they're looking for, little wins. Obviously, that we know they've been battered by injury, and those little wins were Ryan Marrick kicked 2 goals on debut. He looks like a great talent and could be a good long-term future product. That's for sure. Elliot Yeo, again, had 3 really good weeks now. So, yeah, it was great. Luke Shuey was back, and he got through the game unscathed, I believe. Now, obviously, they'll probably say something like, oh, he's been injured, because he's the type of guy that gets injured as soon as he returns. And he showed some ferocity at times as well, and it was good to see. And yeah, obviously Oscar Allen, because he always has good games. But yeah, they need this bye badly. Collingwood, yeah, look, we obviously had a bad game against Melbourne. It just wasn't our day, really. We should bounce back. We use the bye to our advantage and regroup and refresh, and hopefully we get a few players back as well after the bye. Hawthorn, they wouldn't really want the bye, to be honest. No, James Sicily suspended. It would make it a good thing, because they need to rest their players up, because James Sicily makes a massive difference when he's in the team. He won that game for them. He won the game for them against St Kilda. They got smashed by that much against Port Adelaide because Sicily was not there to calm down their defence. Like, he's just so important in what they do, so perhaps a bye would be good for them. Also, Tyler Brockman, they need to get the ball into his hands. He's a 10 to 15 disposal getter. They've got to turn him into a 15 to 20, because everything exciting happens when he gets the football. Every single time Hawthorn got and kicked a goal, I think Brockman touched the footy in that game against Brisbane. He was also good against Port as well. So he's clearly the man to spark them. He's got to go in the midfield more too. Melbourne got a really good win. Same with Essendon. Peter Wright back was massive. Kicked 5 goals. Their midfield was ridiculous. You should have seen it. In the third quarter, I think it was very late in the third term, Draper tapped it, got it to Nick Martin, who had an amazing game, probably the best of his short career, who got it off to Hobbs, who then got it to Durham, who then got it to Perkins, who was just flying through. Then he accidentally, makes a bit of an error of it. Then Menzies picks it up and kicks a snap around the body and kicked one of the goals of the season. And Carlton players didn't even lay a finger on him. Way too easy. Adelaide, wow. Tex Walker, unbelievable. 10 goals in his 250th game. That was an amazing watch. Super entertaining. Highest score of the season was about 175, I think it was now. Just massive. Ridiculous. Going to be very good. Still proving that he's still one of the best players in the comp, and he's now equal in the Coleman, I think. Behind, or maybe he's one behind Curnow. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see if he can snatch that Coleman. And Melbourne, unfortunately, they got the job done in a really close game. They did it for nil, really. It was a good game to watch, that's for sure. Being a Pie supporter as well, actually saying that it was a good game to watch. It just shows you how good they really were. And yeah, look, they've definitely improved, that's for sure, over the last few weeks, Melbourne's defence. Turned out to be a longer video than I thought, this tipping video. You wouldn't expect it to be this long, seeming there's only 6 games, but there's just so much to talk about with footy. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the tipping video. Stay tuned for my prediction video coming out next week on the channel for round 15. And yeah, we will have a Collingwood game in round 15 as well. No review this week, obviously, because we've got the bye.